Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we'll be doing some gameplay of the game Urgent Fury, a squad battle starter kit. This is from Yaah magazine, issue number 16, the upcoming issue number 16, which will arrive in March of 2026, so a month and a half-ish from now. And Kickstarter for it will begin on February 3rd. So if you are interested in picking this up, look out for that Kickstarter on February 3rd. And you will also be able to buy it from Flying Pig Games website, I'm sure, after it is released. So let's get down to a business here. We will be doing some gameplay here to show how the game works. If you are familiar with squad battles, all three of those games, of course, published by Flying Pig Games and designed by Mark Walker. And here we have the new edition, a starter kit. It's small, 3, I think, scenarios, all dealing with the 83 invasion of Grenada by American forces. There were some American students on the island in medical school, and President Reagan sent in Marines to land on one end of the island and take one of the airfields, and the airborne, 82nd Airborne and U.S. Army Rangers to take Port Salinas, which was a new airstrip that was built ostensibly for an airport, but in reality was easily adaptable for military use by the Soviets and the Cubans. There were Cubans on the island. There was political unrest. Civilians were being killed, and President Reagan sent the military, the Marines and the Army in to secure the island. So this is scenario 1 that is set up right here, and I will show you kind of what the breakdown of this is right here as soon as I get to the page for it. So this is scenario 1, Men Who Jump. You can see Point Salinas Airport, Grenada, October 25th, 1983. You get some nice background on the situation. Maurice Bishop's regime was collapsing. His deputy, Bernard Cord, aligned fully with Cuba, which obviously the U.S. government did not like. And Cuban troops were there, so Reagan ordered an invasion. The operation quickly unraveled. The Marines met little resistance, but Point Salinas runway was blocked, forcing the Rangers to parachute in, and navigation failure delayed the drop, giving Cuban defenders time to man 23mm guns. Seeing the heavy fire, the air commander delayed the assault. But one C-130 ignored the order, and about 30 Rangers jumped ahead of schedule. Despite confusion, high winds, and scattered landing, the Rangers rallied and cleared the airfield, living up to their motto, sua sponte, of their own accord. It's an 8-turn scenario. Each turn will end with the 4th end of turn card. Then we have set up for the Cuban forces, and then set up for the U.S. Army, elements of the 75th Ranger Regiment, and the Command Group, 1st Battalion, 75th Ranger Battalion. Now, there are some special rules that we will be dealing with, right? Before the beginning of turn 1, we're going to conduct the U.S. airdrop. We place the units, and then we're going to roll a die per unit and scatter in the indicated direction, starting at 1 in the north, and clockwise, and going 1 hex if it's odd, and 2 hexes if it's even. Then we'll place our 2 remaining Ranger squads and 2 M60s anywhere with other U.S. units. We can't be overstacked. You can have as many as 2 units in a stack. If you do end up with 3 in the same hex, you will have to shake it and move it to an adjacent hex of the American player's choice. If it ends up off map, it'll be able to enter using reserve movement. In the reserve phase, American units can land in enemy occupied hexes, which is 2. Scenario Special Rule 2, at the end of the U.S. airdrop, if any U.S. units are in the same hex with Cuban or Grenadian units, immediately conduct assault combat. The Americans will have the initiative on the first turn, and after setup and before the U.S. airdrop, the American player can shake 3 enemy units. Okay, so there's some decent stuff to unpack there. So shake is disrupted, if you wanted to call it something else that other games may use. So we get to before the drop, so we don't know, like, this is the pre-drop location of the units, like their targeted drop area, I guess, right on the airstrip. So we're going to roll for each of these and then move them. But before we do that, we can shake 3 units. So I would be inclined to shake, we have shake encounters that look like this. Let's shake him, and maybe this guy, And so you don't know, so it's a tough choice. You don't know where your units are going to land. Let's do, it's going to be 2 on one side no matter what. So let's just do this guy. Now we roll. Now this game is typically diceless. Everything is used, basically comes off the cards, which are right here. So we're going to roll 1 die. Got a nice green D6 here that I'm going to roll. We'll start on the left with that Ranger unit. It is an even result. An even result means 2 hexes in that direction. So 4, you count clockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to end up right here, and we are going to have an assault with that unit. Now we'll go to this one, and again, it's 4. So we know 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's 2 hexes, so he will go here. And now we'll do this guy. Let's see if we can get something other than a 4. We got a 1, so he moves here. Now we have this one, and he gets a 4. 4 is a popular one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And now we'll start with the leader, Abizaid. He gets a 2, so he's going to go here. Then we'll do the 2 units with him. That's a 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's even. And that was a 2, right? So he's actually over here. And a 6 would be here. So we have 2 units in this hex now, which is actually not bad as long as this guy doesn't roll a 6. And then we have an overstacked unit. We got a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, it's 2. So we didn't get any odd results. Oh, we did get 1, right? This one was a 1. So he moved 1 hex in that direction. Now we can place our other unit. So I'm going to put a Ranger unit here with Abizaid. We don't want our leader to be alone. 2 is the stacking limit, so we can't put anybody there. Let's put the other 2 down here. We'll give them an M60. We'll give them an M60 as well. So we'll have 1 on each side. Because you can have 2 units and a leader. So he doesn't count technically, I guess, for stacking limit. But we have 2 here. He would count if we had both leaders. There's also Bowles here. That's Bowles. He's the other leader. He's not in this scenario. Then you have this other Ranger unit that I need to place somewhere. And it has to be down here. And so we will... Doesn't say I can't put it here, but I don't know if I can put it here. But just to make things interesting for their leader here, let's put him here. All right, now the hexes are nice and big, so you can get multiple units in there. Can remove that. As I said, the game is largely diceless. Essentially, the main mechanics are all diceless. So now we're going to move into the first turn. The Americans have the initiative. This is the initiative counter. On this side, you have the Grenadian flag and the Cuban flag. On this side, you have the American flag. So I'm just going to set this here. It's an 8-turn scenario. I grabbed an 8-sided die. See 1. I'm just going to use that as a mnemonic to kind of track it. And then we will deal our cards out. So these are the cards. I've already shuffled them. So I'll put the Americans, I guess, over here. They get 1. Each side gets 4. So we'll just deal them out like I keep getting 2. 1 and 1. Okay. So with the Americans having the initiative, they will get to go first. Now this is kind of driven by the cards and what you can do. Okay, so looking at what cards the Americans drew here, you've got Second Wind and Bloodlust, and you can tell what they are. They're actions. Okay, this removes a moved or fired marker. So this is a good one to have after you've done something with a unit because you can then get an extra action. That's why it's Second Wind. Bloodlust is a way to rally it, and you don't have to put ops complete on there. So again, that's pretty good. Then we have the basic here, fire and move, but with the addition of power, which allows you to use one of the powers of the unit or leader, which is also nice to have. Then we have a regular fire and move, which does not have power on it. How do I have 5? I'm going to toss that one. Somehow I had 5. Do I only have 4 for these guys? Yes, okay. All right, that's my bad. And then here we have critical hit and first fire. Now for this, you can see support and reaction. So support card, you can see you play it with fire, reload and fire, move and fire, or first fire. And then you would redraw a card after. And then first fire, eligible unit fires at an enemy unit that is firing on it, resolves simultaneously. So if you're getting fired upon, you use this as a reaction card. So having said that, and we know that there are reaction cards, we need to look at what the Cubans have as well. And this is where I would say I may use dice to resolve whether or not one side or the other will use an action, because this is a 2-player game and plays very well, and best, I would say, 2 players. But when you can't do that, then you have to play it. It is solitaire friendly, I guess, I would say. And we have an end turn card. So when you draw an end turn card, initially you actually are supposed to discard it and then reshuffle the deck, which I'll do momentarily. And they draw another card to replace it. So let me draw another card. So they get their 4th card. So they have the move and fire, which goes with that that card we just saw a moment ago. And then they also have a second wind. They get bullet storm, which adds 1 to the firepower. That's pretty nice. That is a support card. And then they have move on there as well. We have fast move, and this one has power. Play this card to move 1 hex of eligible units, add 1 to the hex's movement factor, so you can move a little further. That's what fast move is. It's an action, as is fire. This one has power. This one also has power. It's fire and just regular move instead of fast move. And then down here you'll see numbers that we'll get into this as they become pertinent. So I'm going to spread these out here at the bottom. They'll be off camera, but I will be able to look at them as things happen. So whether we want to, for a reaction, I may roll a die to see if we want to use it. For support, I'll probably just say, okay, we're going to use that as the active initiative player, I guess I would say. So the first thing we have to do here is decide what we want to do. We do have to resolve the assault, which I think is the first thing. Actually, no, that is not correct. Yes, that is correct, actually. It does say immediately resolve the assault combat. Okay, so we're going to see assault combat right away here. All right, so let's start our assault combat. So we have it in this hex right here. Now, terrain does not matter. They have a foxhole, but foxhole only affects ranged combat, which this obviously is not. So those are your 2 types of combat here, ranged combat and assault combat. This is obviously assault combat. So the first thing we do is we look at our combatants here. So here's our ranger. They have this red knife symbol with a little star or plus next to it. That indicates assault capability, and the plus means like advanced assault or assault plus. The number we want to look at is this 2. That's their firepower. This actually gives them an additional 1, making it a 3, because it's assault plus. Now, if we look at our defender, they also have the assault symbol, but it's the base assault symbol, okay? And what this means is it's got basically 2 effects. 1, it allows you to initiate assault, and in defending, this gives you whatever your firepower rating is, which is 2 for them. So if you don't have this and you are the defender in an assault, you only get firepower of 1, regardless of what the firepower is. So that would model more brittle troops, I would say, right? So that's the base. We've got 3 versus 2 as a base. Now, what they could do is they can, I think, I need to confirm this, and I will in a moment, but the Cubans have this support card, which allows them to add 1 to their firepower. So I think that this is fine for assault, even though they're not the initiative player. Now, the Americans, they don't have that that card, so they can't. Their support card is a critical hit, which would allow them to redraw. So depending, well, I shouldn't say depending, right? So this will allow them to, if we play this in support, that would allow them to redraw one card. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, because it is legal, the Cubans will play the Bullet Storm card, and the Americans are going to play their critical hit card, so they'll get to redraw if we don't get a hit. Okay, now combat in Assault is simultaneous unless you play specific cards, which do exist, that allow you to get ambush is the card, actually, or the action. Ambush action would give you the opportunity to go first and apply your damage before the opponent draws for theirs. So that's a big deal. So each side has a firepower of 3. So I'll draw 3 cards for the Americans. We'll start with 1. And you look down here, and it says hit. And it's green. Green and I think it is, red. Green or red are hits in an assault. So that's 1 hit. I'll put that there as a hit. We'll draw a second one. This is a yellow hit. So this is where our critical hit will come in handy. We can use that to draw again for card 2, and we get another hit. That's 2. Okay, now we'll draw a third card, and it's another green hit, so that is 3 hits. And 3 hits are what you need to destroy a unit. First hit will shake. Second hit on a shaken unit will reduce it, and the third hit on a shaken and reduced unit will destroy it. So in that, we know this Cuban rifle is not going to survive the assault, but they get to draw for themselves. So first one, a hit. Second one, red, that's a hit. Now they've got 2 hits. They need 1 more. If this is green or red, both units are going to be eliminated. It's red. So what that means is both units get eliminated. It was a bloody match here, and both units are knocked out. So that's not ideal, obviously, for either side. But it is what it is, right? So we move on. Now it is just the initiative player's turn, which is the Americans. They have 3 cards left. Okay, so we have one with a power. Now, if we want to look at powers and talk about what those are. Oh, and before I get into the powers, I should say that if either of those units or both of those units had survived, they would be marked ops complete. But because they were destroyed, that just means it's an empty hex now with a foxhole in it. And again, they only get to redraw their first here, which is what it says on the foxhole. You can see that right there, redraw first. That only happens in ranged combat. So powers happen if you activate the unit using a card with power in between the upper text and the unit is marked ops complete after completing their action or using the power. Okay, so what are powers? Well, let's take a look here at this Ranger unit because they have several powers on here. All right, so they have the first one is intensive fire. That's this one right here. They're on the bottom. They've got intensive fire, which means you add 1 to their firepower. The second one there, this one right here, with that looks like a blob, I guess. That's smoke, so they can fire smoke, which allows them cover, of course. And then the skull and crossbones is brutal. So if the movement ends in assault combat and the enemy is forced to retreat as a result of the combat, it's eliminated instead. Okay, so that's what that is. And then Abba Zaid here has another power that is the leadership power, which removes ops complete, moved or fired from a friendly unit. So, and then just to kind of go over what the rest of this is, the 4 here, that's their movement rating. Anybody who's with him gets his movement rating. So in this case, we've got the M60 and the Ranger. They're both with Abba Zaid, so they would actually be able to move 4. But what we're going to do is we're going to assault. We're going to use a movement, and I think we won't use the power because we're going to bring pretty good firepower into this hex against a shaken unit. So we're going to play this card right here, which has a move on it. and we're going to move these 3 units in here and do assault combat. So let's resolve the assault now, because this wasn't a multiple activation kind of thing. We activated 1 hex, all the units moved to assault. So now we will resolve the assault. So you can see here we've got 2, 4, 5 firepower. They have a firepower of 3, but they do not have the assault symbol, so their firepower is actually a 1 in this case. They're also shaken, so they're 1 step closer to being eliminated. We need 2 hits basically to eliminate them, and we have a firepower of 5. We don't take into account the terrain. Jungle has a cover factor of 1, so that would normally remove 1 of your cards for hitting. Now we know from our previous assault that a hit of green or yellow, no, I'm sorry, green or red will be a hit. So, so basically they get 1, the Americans get 5. So we'll do the Americans first. And we get a red, so that's 1 hit. Then a second hit, which actually is going to eliminate them. So I'm going to stop pulling cards now. And we will go to the other side. They get 1 card. And they get a yellow, which is not a hit in assault combat. So they are going to be eliminated. And these guys will take this hex and be marked ops complete. Now that would end the US impulse. Let me discard these. And the Cubans would now go. So the Cubans, looking at their cards, they do not have a rally, right? Because ideally I might want to rally either this hex or this unit or this unit. Honestly, probably this one, because if you look here, they're in kind of a precarious situation, you could say. But what we can do, perhaps, is let's look at this ZPU-4. Okay, it's an anti-aircraft gun. It's got some powers, or some abilities, and it's got the intensive fire power. So the abilities it has, if we look at it again, it has spraying fire. That's the green one, right? Spraying fire, which allows it to distribute its targeting. The other one is the no move and fire, this purplish looking one right here. That means they can't use the move and fire action. This is a good opportunity to talk about line of sight, actually. So in this case, it has to go through a hex that actually has the terrain in it. This one does, but it doesn't, because this hex has jungle and so does this one. So this is an interesting situation. So general line of sight. You can always see an adjacent unit. Determine if you have clear line of sight by tracing a line from the center of your hex to the center of the target's hex. If the line crosses a hex of blocking terrain or intersects a silhouette of a building or crosses 2 hexes of degrading terrain that's not part of your hex or the defending unit hex, the line of sight is blocked. Any hex with a road in it is considered a road hex. If the center dot is also covered by a tree, it is considered a jungle road hex. Okay, this one is covered by, this dot here has a tree on it. And what that means, it is considered to be, let's find it again, considered a jungle road hex. Jungle road hex for line of sight is a blocking hex. So we can't attack here. What we can do instead, though, these guys would have, so we can still use this because we'll use the power for intensive fire, and we'll fire at this unit, and we have a 3 firepower because it's 2 plus 1 is 3. Now I could have also done a move and fire, but they're in a building and I like the cover, so we're going to keep that in here. So we're just going to attack over to this hex, which is a clear line, doesn't intersect anything, and that should be good for fire. Okay, so the procedure is pretty straightforward. Unit is not marked, moved, fired, or ops complete, so it's an eligible unit. That's the first step. Second step is we look at the line of sight. It's clear. Then we would look at the cover, also clear, so they don't have any reduction for cover factor. The range is 1, 2. You count the target hex and any intervening hex, but not the firing hex. So 2. That's pretty standard, right? Now we have firepower, which is 2. We played the support card. We played the power on the card to give a intensive fire. So that allows us to add 1 to our firepower, making it 3. So we'll target this bottom unit, right? Because we have to designate a target. So we'll fire at this squad here, right? And even though they're in the same hex, we're targeting 1. Now we're going to draw 3 cards. And this is regular fire, so it only hits on a green. And we get a hit. So that's 1 hit. So these guys will at least be shaken. And we draw again. Yellow hit is no hit. And the third one is another green hit. So this is going to shake and reduce this unit. So we flip it over. That's the reduced side. And we stick a shaken on there. So they are now shaken and reduced. So that's a successful impulse there for the Cubans. And now we would go to the next impulse. It reverts back to the Americans. They have 1 card, so the first thing you do is draw up to 4. Draw your hand back to 4, I should say. So we draw 1, 2, 3. And we got another fire with power. We got an end turn. And we got a punishing fire. And they can fire twice, okay, with the target being able to retreat between attacks. And we have sniper. So you can take a random card from your opponent's hand and then take an action. So that's useful as well. The question is the end card. What do you do with the end card? Well, the end card counts towards the end of the turn, and we get 4 of those, the turn will end. But because we drew 1, we get to draw again. So we look at that. Second end turn card. So now we've got 2. We draw again. Oh my goodness. I did shuffle the deck. I swear to God I did. 3. And finally, okay, here we go. Bloodlust and fire. You can see Bloodlust rallies an eligible unit, but does not place an ops complete card. So we do have a shaken unit. So I could play this, right? So let's just do this. We're going to play Bloodlust. And we're going to remove the shaken from this guy, but we don't have to, because what this does is, since he's shaken and reduced, 1 hit would kill him at this point. By taking this off, it will take 2 to kill him. Plus, it also doesn't require us putting an ops complete on a unit, which is what happens when you rally a unit normally. Okay, so that is the end of the American impulse. They still have 3 cards left, so next turn or next impulse, we'll draw 1 more to get back to 4. Now, the Cuban and Grenadian side has 1 card left, so they're going to draw 3. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. And they get a fire with power, fire move with power, fire move without power, and a bloodlust and a reload and fire. Now, again, they can also use the bloodlust, right? Single unit marked fire, which I forgot to do. We could actually reload that and have them fire again at the original target and place and add 1 and place an ops complete. So let's do that. We're going to do this reload and fire. Okay. So I'm going to put these 2 down. Now let's look and see, do we have anything here that we can do from the US side to react to that? We do not have any reactions here. Everything we have is an action, as you can see. Okay, so we're going to remove the fired marker, and based on what reload and fire does, they can fire at this unit again, and they get 1 to their added to their firepower. So they're again going to draw 3. I forgot to pull those off. And draw 1. Blank, no hit. Second one, red hit, not a hit. Third one, green hit. That is a hit. So they are going to now be marked ops complete. And these guys are again shaken. But if I had not used bloodlust on them, that 1 hit would have killed them, would have destroyed the unit. So that actually turned out to be a good use of bloodlust. For the Americans, who have 3 cards, 1 of which is again bloodlust, so I may do the same thing to kind of keep that unit alive. We're going to draw another card. We've got bullet storm and fast move. Okay, so I am going to again play bloodlust and again remove this from here. And that is the end of that impulse for the US. We'll go back to the Cubans. They draw 1. And they get a fast move, then an aimed shot, which allows you to ignore the terrain. And right now, none of the only American units that have cover are the ones up here. Let's see, what do we want to use? These guys are now ops complete. We know they can't fire. We could move them. They can't do move and fire, but they could move. And if they move here, they would be in a jungle hex, so they would still get 1 cover factor. I don't have a way to rally the this unit or that unit. So what I'm going to do is we have this right here that has power on it. I'm going to activate Pedro's leadership power to remove the ops complete marker from this unit. That will end their turn because you just get 1 action, or end their impulse, I should say, because it's not a turn. And we go back to the Americans, who draw 1 card, and they get a rally card and a second wind card. Okay, so the rally card is useful. We don't have a shaken unit at the moment, but that's a good one to have in hand. We're going to do punishing fire. Okay, fire single, eligible unit only, fire twice. Target may retreat between attacks. We're going to attack this shaken unit with one of our rangers. So he's going to get 2. He's got 2 firepower, but they are in a jungle, so they get a cover factor of 1. Now they do have line of sight because it's clear into that hex, or adjacent to that hex. So let's just say it's the one on the right here. He's going to fire twice, but he's only got a firepower of 1 because of the cover factor there. So we'll draw the first card. It's a green, that's a hit. Okay, so that is going to reduce him. And then the second card is also a green, and actually, no, they would get to retreat, which I think they probably would want to do here. So let's do this. We're going to take this. We're going to reduce him. And then he can elect to retreat before the second hit happens. Okay, so we have an interesting situation here. He's shaken, and he has a movement factor of 2. Shaken halves your movement. That means he has a movement factor of 1. And a cost to move to jungle, which is likely where he would retreat away, right? Probably here or here, costs 2. He doesn't have it, so I'm assuming he cannot retreat in that situation, and then the second hit would count, and he would be eliminated. So we've now eliminated 2 of the enemy units and lost 1 ourselves from the US side, of course, as I'm talking here. We mark as I think it was ops complete here. This guy, if I remember correctly, let me look. It was punishing fire. Target may retreat between it. Fire. Oh, I guess it's just a fire action. So we'll put a fired marker on there. Okay, now that, and did I? Yeah, that needs to go on there because we drew that for the second hit. So we're getting low on cards somewhat, and that 4th end turn is in here somewhere. Now the Cubans will draw 1, and they get a fast move and rally. So we're going to play the rally right away and remove the shaken from this guy. Okay, now he gets marked ops complete because that's what happens when you rally. Okay, he's also ops complete because he used his power, and I forgot to mark him as such. Okay, now we go back to the Americans. They draw 1 card. It is move and fire and reinforcements. Play this and draw another card does not count as an action. So we can do that and draw another card, and we get a fast move and a rally. All right, so, okay, I'm going to use this fast move because I don't have a regular move. Well, I do, but I want to use that card for its power. So I'm going to use a fast move on this unit, and he's going to move up here to assault. Then that obviously gets discarded. Then I'm going to use this card for the power, and we're going to use the brutal power, because what that does is if it forces this unit to retreat in assault, it's eliminated. So this is an opportunity to kick it out. All right, so we can also play Bullet Storm for the 1 additional firepower. because he's got a 2. He's going to get an extra 1 from his ability here, his Assault Plus, and another 1 from Bulletstorm, giving him 4. They have 2. The Foxhole does not have an impact. So we're going to draw 4 cards. We'll do the US first, then we'll do the Cubans. Blank, no hit. Red is a hit. Blank is no hit. Blank is no hit. And green is a hit. So that's 2 hits. Okay, so they get 2 hits. Now the Cubans will pull. They get 2 hits each. There's our 4th end turn. So the turn's going to end at the end of this combat. The hit does count, by the way. It does have a green hit, so that does count. So that's 1 hit. If he hits again, it's a tie. And he does hit again, so it is a tie. So what happens when you have a tie in an assault is the attacker has to retreat. And they must retreat to where they came from. So that's down here. They got 2 hits, so they are reduced and shaken, as are the Cubans. Okay, and they both get marked ops complete. All right, so that ends the turn. And I'll go through what happens after the impulse, alternating impulse thing kind of works its way through. So we've got all these cards that we'll need to reshuffle, and we'll be moving to turn 2. And I'll use my little mnemonic D8 over there to track that. So we move to the reserve phase. So this allows the player with turn initiative moves first. Okay, so we can move all eligible units. So that's anybody that's not marked ops complete, fired, or moved. So it's all of these here for the Americans, and this one, that one, and this one for the Cubans / Grenadians. Only eligible units can move in this phase, right? Enemy or eligible units that begin the reserve phase more than 3 hexes from an enemy unit may expend 2 movement points, but must stop immediately upon entering a hex within 3 hexes. If they are within 3 hexes of an enemy unit, they may expend 1 movement point, but they cannot enter an enemy unit's hex. Shaken units that begin the reserve phase within 3 hexes of an enemy unit may not move, can't play any cards, and no combat can occur. There's not that much that we can do here. We can move 1. I'm tempted to move this guy because he's reduced. So I could move, he's obviously within 3 hexes of an enemy unit. So he would only be able to move 1 movement point, which would make him be able to go here, here, or here, or even here. So let's move him up here. And I think that will be it for the U.S. Then the Cubans, he's not going to move. We may move this guy. Let's move this guy here. Move this guy here. Actually, no, they can't do that. Neither can they, because it costs 2 to move here, I think. It's a Jungle Road Hex. Jungle Road Hex movement costs 2-1. They would have to move to the road and lose their cover. So I think we're just going to say that they're not going to move because they don't have the movement points. They only have 2 movement points. Jungle movement costs 2. They wouldn't be able to do it. Okay, and then we come to the cleanup phase when we're going to remove all of the ops complete, fired, etc. Smoke markers, if we had any, would be removed if it was smoke 1. So here's a smoke marker. Okay, you would turn the 2 over to 1, and if it was already 1, you would remove it. So you get degrading smoke, and then smoke is gone. Then you advance the turn marker, combine the discard and draw pile, and begin again for the next turn. So I'm going to stop here. I try not to make my videos too long. I hope you got a decent idea of how this game works and I didn't muck things up too badly. System's not complicated, and of course any mistakes are mine. It's been a little bit since I've played, but I did reread the rules, so hopefully I didn't mess this up too badly. But anyway, we're done. Thank you, and a shout out to all of my channel members. I appreciate the support. If you'd like information on that, check out the join button under the player. And you can get information without joining just by looking at the info. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video and you would be kind enough to consider liking, sharing, hyping, and or subscribing if you're not a subscriber. If you already are, thank you very much. Even if you don't want to do any of that stuff, hopefully you'll come back and check out another video down the line. But we're done now. I'm Joe. This is Hext Encountered. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.